Hello, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fahmy and I will explain you a noun clause and also adjective clause. So please stay tuned on this channel.
Okay, let's start with the noun clause. What is a noun clause? Noun clause is a type of dependent clause classed as the same part of speech as a noun. Today we are going to discuss the definitions of a noun clause, 8 types of noun clauses, and how to identify a noun clause. Okay, let's start with the definitions. A noun clause, also referred to as a substantive clause, is a dependent clause that acts as a noun. When a simple noun is not enough to represent a person, place, things, or idea, we use a noun clause. Well, noun clauses begin with a relative pronoun, like who, whose, which, what, that, whoever, whomever, and whichever, and also whatever. A noun clause can also begin with subordinating conjunctions like how, when, where, whether, why, and if. There are 8 types of noun clauses. First one, as a subject. The second one, as a direct object. The third one, indirect object. Fourth one is object of preposition, subject complement, object complement, the accusative, and also the ejective complement. Let's start with the noun clause as a subject in a sentence. The subject of the sentence is the person, place, things, or idea doing the actions of the verb. For example, that Tim is not a very good friend is obvious to those who know him. That here is a signal for the dependent clauses. Tim is not a very good friend. Tim as a subject there, verb is, and the noun clause is here, not a very good friend. The second question, where we end up, is anyone guess? Where here is the signal of the dependent clause. We as a subject, will as a main verb, and is anyone guess as a predicate. So the noun clause here is as a subject, where we end up, where we will end up. The noun clause as a direct object. The direct object receives the actions of the transitive verb and answers the questions what or who. Rolly doesn't understand why the package has not arrived, watching you as a signal dependent clause. Why the package has not arrived is describing understand. Another quote. Father said that there was a working late. So that there was a working late is a direct object. And that is the signal of dependent clause there. An indirect object is the recipient of the direct object. So now noun clause as indirect object. Let's see. My teacher usually gives whoever completes the project by Friday extra credit. So if we see here, whoever completes the project by Friday is a direct object, and the direct object there is an extra credit. Another example, the contest will award whoever signed the best song a prize. So whoever sings the best song is an indirect object because the direct object is a prize. Okay, another object of the prepositions. A noun clause as an object of prepositions. So preposition is placed there. They sold the house to whoever made the best offer. Whoever made the best offer is a preposition because there are two there, two as a preposition. I'm not interested in whatever you have to say to me. In here as a preposition. So whatever you have to say to me as a noun clause after the preposition. And now a noun clause as a subject complement. So a subject complement follows a linking verb and describes or identifies the subject. This is also referred to as a predicative nominative. Let's see example. Knitting is what makes me relax. So what makes me relax is describing the knitting as a subject. $10 is what I have in my purse. What I have in my purse is describing the $10 as a subject. So it means the subject complement there. A noun clause and object complement. An object complement describes or completes the direct object. An object complement noun will follow the direct object and modify it. For example, I never believed his story that the dog ate his homework. That the dog ate his homework is describing of his story there. His story as an object. Okay, another example here. She considered her biggest regret that she never said I love you. So that she never said I love you is a noun clause that describes the regret, the condition, what she regret that she never said I love you is something that she regret. Okay, a noun clause as an appositive. Positives we name them. Okay, let's see another noun clause as an appositive. For example, know the truth. We who are wiser and older know the truth. Who are wiser and older is describing we. Another example. The belief that we must conserve energy is a popular one. The belief is describing that we must conserve energy. When a noun clause modifies or complements adjective, it's called an adjective complement. Example, I became worried when I heard the hurricane was coming our way. When I heard the hurricane was coming our way is an adjective complement describing worry. What kind of worry they had? Mark is unsure if Sheila really loves him. If Sheila really loves him, he's describing unsure. Okay, there you will not use comma to set up a noun clause. Now, how we identify a noun clause? The first one, a noun clause is dependent clause. Dependent clause that is classed as the same part of speech as a noun. Second one, remember that a clause must have a subject or noun and predicate as a verb. A noun clause is triggered by a relative pronoun. That's how we identify a noun clause. Okay, let's move to another discussions today. An adjective clause. This is an unsubordinate or dependent clause that are group words that contain a subject or predicate that can function as a part of speech as an adjective. Okay, let's focus on today's discussions. We will learn about subordinate or dependent clause that functions as an adjective. The adjective clause. What is an adjective clause? An adjective clause is also known as adjectival or elative clause is a dependent clause that modifies a noun or a pronoun. An adjective clause functions as a part of speech, which is the adjective. The spot where the trees grew were plainly visible, for example. Where no trees grew is an adjective that describes the spot of the subject. And the other is the predicate were plainly visible. How to identify an adjective clause? You can identify the adjective clause in sentence by looking. The first one is subordinates or connectives or conjunctions. The adjective clause may begin with a relative pronoun, that, which, who, whom, whose. An adjective clause may also begin with relative adverb like where and when. Also, why. This is the relative pronoun, that, which, who, whom, whose, and relative adverb. People who have marketable skill can always find an employment. Who have marketable skills is an adjective clause who describe a people as a subject. And who there is a signal of dependent clause. Have is the verb there. Paris, which is known as the city of light, is full of life. Which is known as the city of light is an adjective clause who describe Paris as a subject of a sentence. The author whose biography was released last week is coming to our local bookstore. Whose autobiography was released last week is the adjective clause describe the author as a subject. That was the time when we were young and carefree. When we were young and carefree is an adjective clause describing the direct object of the time. Here's the title cafe where you and I fell in love. Where you and I fell in love there is an adjective clause. My dog incessant barking is the reason that I cannot study. That I cannot study there is an adjective clause describing the reason as a subject complement. The subject is my dog incessant barking. The author whose biography was released last week is coming to our local bookstore. There are two types of an adjective clause. This first one is restrictive or essential or defining or identifying. The second one, non-restrictive, non-essential, non-defining, or non-identifying. So every book will naming differently of these two types. For example, my friend who drives an old Cadillac is buying a new bike. My friend who drives an old Cadillac is an adjective clause that essential because that's describing my friends, a lot of my friends. So when we want to omitting the adjective clause there, it cannot meaningful. For the example, another example, Marty, who drives an old Cadillac, is buying a new bike. We can omitting the who is driving Cadillac because we have non-essential there, because Martin is already clear who is Martin. When to use commas to set off an adjective clause. Whatever is enclosed inside the commas can be removed and the meaning of the sentence will be intact. Restrictive clauses are not set off by commas. Restrictive adjective clauses are essentials to the meaning to the sentence because they are modifying the noun or the pronoun. A restrictive clause is identified or defined and is essential to preserve the meaning of the noun or the pronoun. Let's see the table. The film that is set in the 1950s is the one of my favorite movies. My aunt, who recently retired, is on a cruise to the Caribbean. The house that in the film is haunted. In the restrictive adjective clause there, we cannot omit the adjective clause there because the film, so many film there. if we do not give an additional descriptions, then it cannot be clear who is the film, who is the own, who is the house. So let's see another non-restrictive adjective clause. When we use non-restrictive, we can omit or we can delete the adjective clause there, because, for example, Grease is one of my favorite movies. It's already meaningful, and it is clear who is what kind of film there. The name of the film there, Grease. Aunt Rachel, who recently retired, is on a cruise of the Caribbean. Now, Aunt Rachel is already definite. Yeah, so if we delete the additional informations after the Aunt Rachel, it is okay. Gray manner that is in here is haunted. That is in here, we can omit that adjective clause, because the gray manner is already definite, already clear which one is the gray manner is. Okay, this is what we have to concern with the adjective clause. The adjective clause must be placed next to the noun or pronoun it modifies. The relative pronoun who is used to describe who, why, use that. Do not use the relative pronoun which for restrictive clause. Use that instead. Do not confuse the appositive noun clause for an adjective clause. That appositive noun clause is not describing the noun, it is syntactical and duplicate the noun.
Okay, thank you for your attentions. I think that's all my presentations related to a noun clause and also the adjective clause. See you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.